I thought I'd jump on tonight and have a chat to you about unconditional and quantum love. I had something stuck in my eye before, that's why it's a bit red. It's not that I'm tired or that I've been drinking too much or something like that. It'll settle down. But yeah, tone that down a bit. All right, guys, I wanted to have a chat about unconditional and quantum love. So let me know that you can hear and see me okay. I don't often jump on YouTube and do a live, so it's not like a Facebook live, and it's a funky time of day, but I really wanted to have this conversation because there is a massive, massive difference between conditional love and quantum love. And a lot of people think that unconditional love is the way to go. Heather, awesome to see you. Lovely to see you, sweetheart. All right, I'll just wait for a couple of people to jump on. Okay, more people are jumping on. This is awesome. We do have a bit of a delay. Great. Awesome to see you, Heather. Okay, so unconditional love, what is that? It's a real new age principle a lot. It's about love and light, and I'm just going to be loving, and other people are going to be able to grant me love, approval, security, and survival back. And it really comes from a lot of the belief where we say people are going to treat us how we treat them. And it's actually a complete false premise. Hi, Cedric. It's lovely to see you. And I'm going to explain to you why it's a false premise. But a lot of us were really brought up with that. And the belief was that if I'm loving and I don't hurt people's feelings and I'm just a really good person and I'm really sweet and I'm really caring to them, that they're going to love me back. And it's unconditional love. And absolutely, we can have unconditional love for ourselves. I believe we can have unconditional love for a higher power. We might be able to have unconditional love for our children, but it's not healthy to have unconditional love for other adults. And the reason is because people don't always treat us how we treat them. And the other reason is it is so important for us in our relationships to show up, to be able to be honest, to be able to have the difficult conversations, to be able to ask for what we need rather than dimming down and just saying, well, I'm just going to be loving and I'm going to be nice and I'm going to be caring. Because unfortunately, as a lot of people know in this community, that 100%, if you're with a toxic individual, that doesn't go down well at all. Because if somebody is narcissistic, they are naturally exploitative. They do want people that believe in unconditional love, because what's going to happen is you're going to show up and say, look, I just want to be nice and I want to be loving. And I really just honestly, it's about I want to go along to get along. Now, empaths are really susceptible to doing this because you believe you're a good person and you're very sensitive to other people's energies. And you're also very, very sensitive to when other people get bent out of shape and they could actually, what I call, crap on you, criticize, reject, abandon, or punish you for speaking up and saying no, laying a boundary, having needs. And when we were very little, if we did have either parents that were very placating with people, we observed them with people not laying boundaries. They could have been beautiful, amazing people who were just always nice, always friendly, always granted things to others, which would be amazing if everybody else was like that. And back in the day, truly, there were more people like that were just really community, unity conscious minded. It was a lot more common back in our parents' and our grandparents' day than what it is now. Sadly, now, that is not the norm because we've had so much consumerism, we've had so much keeping up with the Joneses, we've had so much separation consciousness and me versus you and competition. Sadly, we have a lot of people that are not community not oneness minded. Oneness meaning what I do to me is what I do to you. That together we achieve more as a community. That really has fallen away. So we have to get out of the programs of unconditional love. Okay. Unconditional love can be, I love you and I'm never going to stop loving you. So for our children, somebody we care about, even somebody who's narcissistic, I love you. That's not wrong. I love you. However, I love myself enough to speak up. And I also love myself enough not to allow you to continue hurting me. I love what Neil Donald Walsh once said. He said, to allow an abuser to abuse you is an act of abuse in itself. Now, he wasn't talking about you. He was talking about the other person. Because unless you're giving them boundaries and you're giving them feedback and you're saying no, you're actually never giving them an opportunity to up-level and change their behavior. You are enabling it. That's not true love. Now, you could love that person and that's unconditional, but you don't love their behavior. And you love them enough to tell the truth. To say, person that I love dearly, what you are doing is not okay. And I'm not allowing it. I'll give you a beautiful story that it inspired me years ago, and it's never stopped inspiring me. There was an older woman and a man that I met, and I was at a meeting that I'd taken a friend to who had a gambling addiction, and because she was struggling, and I was supporting her. And they were both up on stage, and he spoke about how he'd had multiple addictions throughout his life, drugs, gambling, alcohol, and his wife had tried to fix him and tried to cope and tried to love him back to health. She'd taken him to psychology and meetings and all sorts of things, doctors, etc. And he was an addict until one day, decades into their marriage, she decided that she loved herself enough to no longer be in relationship with an addict. And she said to him, I am not going to be abused by an addict ever again. And that's my truth. So anyway, she said, you're an addict, you have to go. He moved out. He went and did a year in a caravan park. He went and got help. And he came back. And he said, I'm no longer an addict. And she said, I'm sorry, I don't yet believe it. And I need the absolute proof from your therapist. I need to hear it from them. I need to see it from a distance. And anyway, he followed through and they got back together. She'd already been in another relationship that didn't work out. They got back together and she stood on stage and she said, you could not ask for a better husband, father, grandfather. And he was nearly in tears and he said, she saved my life because she saved her own. This is quantum love. This is quantum love. Quantum love is love from the inside out rather than the outside in. What we know as unconditional love is love from the outside in. It's the handing of power away. If I just give you what you want and I don't step on your toes and I make you happy and I make your life easier, you're going to love me. Now, when we look at quantum love says it is spiritual, it is quantum. It's quantum physics, which is how I base my life. It's how I came back from virtual death, rack and ruin, and turned my life around in 4 short years and have kept creating my life from there on. Quantum love is my inner universe is the creation of my outer universe. Everything is connected in unity consciousness. Who I am being is what I'm going to choose, what I'm going to roll around in, what I'm going to wrestle with, what I'm going to try to create my life from by handing my power away to outside people and situations to try to change them, to change me. Quantum love says, if I change me and I have an inner standing in my truth, well, then what is in my life is either got to raise up in vibrational level to match me, or it will leave my life and a higher vibrational reality will come. She was the perfect example of that. She had tried to fix and change and love him into health for decades, but she was coming from the quantum premise of the truth within herself if she wasn't loving herself, because she was accepting an addict. Quantum law says whatever you participate in, whatever you accept is what you'll get. It doesn't matter what you're learning, what you're thinking, what you're saying, even what you're acting. If you are participating with it and you are accepting and tolerating it, no matter what you're saying and doing, well, then that is what you will get. So she said, I'm not having it. That's an addict. I'm not having it, because my inner standing now is I do not do relationship with addicts. He came back as a non-addict, and they've had this incredible life together as a result. So Quantum, she always loved him. And she stood up on stage and she said, I loved him, but if I stayed with him, I wasn't loving myself. And as she discovered, I wasn't loving him either, because I was never giving him the opportunity to change. Quantum love goes back to quantum law. And I said it before, of so within, so without. And what that means is whoever you're being is what you're going to choose, what you draw from the field, and it's also what your future is going to be. So when people say, tomorrow I'm going to get onto my inner work, or I'm going to change, my inner programming, tomorrow never comes. It's always in the moment of now. So she could have said, if I'm just going to see if he changes for another 2 months, and if he doesn't, well, then I'm going to kick him out. Now, she wasn't looking at 2 months of him not changing. She was looking at forever of her pattern of accepting an addict in her life forever, because tomorrow never comes. But in that day where she said, I will never be with an addict again, that's when her life changed. It's really interesting. Here in Australia, we have what's known as the Edamanga pub. And it's always got a sign out the front that says, free beer tomorrow. Think about it. It's hilarious. It's hilarious. People go, woohoo, free beer tomorrow. They get there and the sign says the same thing. So this is our life. Amazing people. Quantum law, I'm going to talk to you about it in the higher power. In quantum law, acknowledges consciousness, which we can't see, smell, touch, feel. It's vibrational. And consciousness, we could say, whether you want to call it God, source, creation, your higher power, nature, everything around you, it's creation is creator. What's created, it's what we're creating is consciousness. And this is a vibrational field. And I'm not going woo-woo on you. This is just how it is. So in this vibrational field, and this is what I love about the understanding of a higher power when you go quantum, because a lot of us in our life, we could say, well, I'm cursed, or, source has forsaken me, God's punishing me, my life is this, why is the universe doing this to me? Just say yes in the comments if you felt like that, if that's been how you felt, or maybe you still feel like that, because it's really common. Okay, and people are saying yes. Okay, let me explain quantum law to you really simply. It's actually beautiful when you understand it. And it hands us our power back, because people say, well, how do I change it? How do I change it? I'm going to explain it. It's really simple. This higher power that we've believed is dealt us a shocking hand, is rolling dice, is deciding you're good or you're not. You can have the goodies and you can't. It's actually not true at all. We're actually deciding. We have a source within us and source outside of us, and source that is the entire field is all connected. It's all interconnected. This higher power is so unconditionally loving. This is actually the truth of unconditional love. This power, this infinite mind says, dearly beloved soul, as a part of me that you are, a fractal of source, I love you so much that whatever you are being, I will agree with that and I'll grant you more of that. So, this higher power does not differentiate, does not say, well, that's right or that's wrong or I'm deciding. It's saying, I love you so much that I'm giving you the complete and utter free will that whatever you're being, I'll grant you more of that. Because I want you to understand that as the being that you are, as the fractal of source that you are, ye are grand creator. And as it was said in the Bible, that you will do greater deeds than even I do. You are made in the image and the likeness of source, creation. So let's say that we're being depressed. Source says, dearly beloved, I love you so much, I'll grant you more of that. You can call it right or wrong or bad or unfair. It just is. It's just quantum law. It's just as absolute as gravity. Now let's say that you are being uplifted, you're being inspired, you're being positive, you're being conscious, which I'm going to get to, and you're expanding. Source says, I'm going to give you more of that. So our real job is to get out of the life from the outside in and start looking at life from the inside out. When I used to live life from the outside in, I was always conscientious, great work ethic, hardworking, tried so hard. And I had a lot of beliefs that life is hard and you only get what you put in and, all sorts of things. But I had lots of disappointments in my life, lots of treachery, lots of loss, lots of tragedy. And of course, horrific narcissistic abuse. And I used to think, what is this? I'm such a good person. I'm diligent, I'm conscientious, I'm caring, I've got empathy, I've got integrity. What on earth is going on here? Now, back in the day, there were some conscious people before I went quantum. And they would say to me, what's going on within you to have this in your life? And I wanted to punch them in the cake hole. I was incensed because I would say to them, what are you telling me? That I'm narcissistic, that I'm a shocking person, and that's why I've got this demon in my life? And they said, no, we're not saying that. But I didn't get it until I went quantum. I didn't get it. What I did get, thank goodness, because it saved my life and gave me my life and complete freedom from all narcissistic abuse symptoms, and I ended up expanding and creating way beyond anything I ever had even before abuse, because of up-leveling myself into a quantum reality. And what I discovered was my so within was not a narcissist, as to why I got a narcissist, My so within was all the fears and the traumas of abuse from my past. So what was I being? I was being a particular love code of pain and fear and limits. The people who love me abandon me. The people who love me abuse me. The people I love criticize me, exploit me. The list went on and on and on and on, because the people I love treat me like I'm invisible, that I don't matter, that I'm worth nothing. Now, this was all echoes of the past. This had been in my energy field since being very young, and it had actually, when I went quantum, because when you go quantum, you realize you're more than just this flesh and blood entity now, that you've been an energy field doing a soul growth for probably a very long time, and not just in this lifetime. And when you go quantum, you start accessing those parts of yourself in a multidimensional way where you understand what's going on in the really big picture. And it makes so much sense. And I discovered that I'd had persecution traumas, annihilation traumas literally of it's not safe to be in my body and it's not safe to be a human in this life. Now, the work that I've done with people over the last 17 years, hundreds of thousands of people in this community for a very long time have come through my narcissistic abuse recovery program, done courses with me, done 10-week boot camps, all sorts of things. I'm actually pretty stock standard for the people who've been abused by narcissists, that we had unfinished business that was in our energy field. And what it really meant, getting back to unconditional love, we were the people that were so lovely. We were the people that didn't want to speak up. We were the people that had the codependent tendency. If I look after you and I love you and I'm a good person and I have lots of integrity, well, then I'm going to be loved back. And we thought it was because we didn't want to hurt other people's feelings and we wanted to be good people. But really what it was, we were terrified to take up space and speak up and lay boundaries, because we were terrified about the repercussions and what would happen to us. The persecution programs, the annihilation programs, the being abandoned programs, the being punished programs. And for a lot of us, there was a caretaker that was like that. Or somewhere in our genetic history, there were people that were like that. So, unconditional love, we thought we're looking after other people. But the truth is, when you really dig under it, you were trying to look after yourself. And it didn't go well at all, because narcissists, exploiters, toxic people can sniff out people like us at 100 paces. They know who to target. So, there's a bit in this. But when we go into quantum love, we stop. Now, I'm just going to say it, beautiful people, and I hope you can breathe deeply and you can just hear this and just accept it. Because I promise you, I've been all of these things. When we go to quantum love and open up to quantum reality, we stop being victims. And I understand it. And we were victimized and it was horrible and it was shocking and these people are shocking. I am never not going to validate you on that. But what I'm saying is victim consciousness is life from the outside in, and there is no growth, there is no healing, there's no emancipation, and there's no resurrection in that. And there's certainly no thriving. You're stuck. Because what you believe is that my life is like this because there are other people like that. Whereas the real truth is my life is like this because I've been carrying programs and traumas that match people like that. Now, we have no capacity to change other people. There's 8 billion other people in the world. You can't change them. In fact, you can't even change one. Nobody changes because you want them to change you. It's actually defies quantum law. It's like putting a cart in front of a horse. It's the wrong way around. Let me say it again. Nobody changes because you're trying to change them to change you. It's impossible. The only way somebody ever changes in your experience is if you change you and they need to step up to match you at a higher vibration. Now, they may or may not, but if they don't, they leave your experience and the higher vibrational reality human being appears to match who you are being, because that's how it always goes. Now, victim consciousness will never accept that. They'll say it's victim blaming and shaming and it's all of this. And I promise you, I used to beat that drum and it nearly killed me. I wouldn't be alive if I'd kept beating that drum. That's how bad it was for me. And it has been for a lot of people in this community. So quantum law says, and this is quantum law, if there's something in my outer experience that I've been experiencing in my hologram of life, there is a matching traumatic belief inside me that matches it. So this changes everything. It changes the whole game. Because rather than that whole game of, well, if I just keep loving people and trying to make them change, I'm going to get love. It changes all of that. We know it doesn't work. We stop playing that game. And we say, what do I need to do between me and myself and source to actually make my life work? Now, it all comes back to trauma. And this is something I never realized till I went quantum. And trauma is actually karma. Karma is a continuation of events in your life that, you know, that has anybody ever felt like I must have hit a Chinaman? I must have run over a Chinaman because my life has been so crazy, painful, and traumatic. I used to think that. Karma can be good karma and it could be bad karma. But let's talk about bad karma because that's the stuff we want to deal with. Bad karma simply is that I have trauma programs within me, wedged within me, that I've never let go of. I haven't found the way to let them go and liberate myself from them. I haven't gone free of them. So therefore, what is happening is I am getting more of the bad luck over and over again. It's just a life that's matching my trauma. That's karma. Once you release the karma, you go into grace, free of the karma. And it's really interesting with narcissistic people because, you know, they hurt us, they do shocking, shocking things. And people say, well, why don't they get their karma? They look like they're, you know, they've got the new lover and the holidays and the new car and they took my house and life's just peachy for them. Okay, I could do a whole nother YouTube on that because it's actually not, but for the sake of this argument, it looks like that. Now, what's happened is all of the bad stuff they've done to us, because we've got the trauma of it wedged inside of us, we actually take the karma because that's in our being. Now, what happens, which is awesome, when you release the karma and you go free from it, it goes home to sender. That's when narcissists get their comeuppance. And what happens is in my narcissistic abuse recovery program, which is NARP, and you'll see it in the description of this, when people work through the module 4 and the module 5 stuff and they get free of the injustices and the betrayals and the need for accountability, it all goes home to sender and they usually get accountability. But the interesting thing is, without the trauma in your being, you actually don't care. You don't need them to be held accountable to have your freedom because you've actually already got it. And then you get the accountability. That's another quantum law. You never get something that you need to be whole. When you go free and you're just whole, then you get it. Then it comes. And that's how quantum law works. Because there's another beautiful thing about quantum law. Your desires, the things that you want in life, are already registered. They're already in your escrow. They already exist. They're already real for you. Your soul doesn't get it wrong. That's why you want these things. And when you get out of the way, the need, it's like when you say, I want that to feel whole, you're going to get the feeling of the want. And what are you being? You're being unholy, unwhole. You're being fractured, you're being broken, you're being empty. So you're actually just going to get more of that. That's how quantum law works. And we've been programmed into life from the outside in to not understand this. And therefore, we've been trying to do things like law of attraction. I'm not a fan at all. I'm going to tell you why I'm not a fan. I think it's garbage. I think it's garbage for people who've got internal trauma that's unhealed. Because what happens is with your internal trauma, I'll give you an example. Let's say I want a safe, healthy lover. You know, I want to be loved safely and beautifully. But your inner trauma is your love code. The people I love hurt me, annihilate me. Add the words. Now you've got a vision board, you've got your affirmations, you're even doing meditation, right? All of this stuff. But what's your being? What is your being? What's your subconscious program? What's the engine of your life? 97% of your creation power in the engine room is your subconscious. And if it's got big trauma in there, it is energized, it is powerful, it's huge. It's got, think of this, okay? Emotion, energy in motion. When we've got trauma, it's dense emotion. It has a life of its own. If it's wrapped around a painful belief, it is supercharged. It is so powerful in our life. Now, law of attraction for people with trauma, what happens is you're trying to put a new program on top of an elephant. You're trying to put our conscious mind, reading, learning, researching, even meditation, that's not done in a way to contact your subconscious. Lots of things that I used to do too, journaling, all sorts of things. Okay, they're only putting in tiny little drip feeds through the alpha, beta brain waves to get down into theta, which is where your subconscious is. By the time you're 12 years of age, the gateway from your alpha brain to your theta internal brain is shut. If you don't know how to talk to your subconscious in the language that it understands, which is intention, visualization, and somatic emotional limbic system communication, then what you're doing, beautiful thrivers, is you're putting ice cream on top of poop in your cone. Imagine it. You've got a cone with crap in it and you're putting ice cream on top of it. It's a pretty crappy treat. Or imagine that you're trying to drive a Ferrari into a garage and there's a rusty old wreck that's blocked up the garage. So this is the problem with law of attraction if we've had trauma. So of course what we want to do, don't we? We want to get the poop out of the cone and we want to get the rusty old car out of the garage and then we want to put the good stuff in. And that's exactly what quantum healing does. And that's why it works. That's why it saved my life. And that's why it gave me my life. Because what I didn't realize, which I fully do now, is that every situation in my life that was bringing me to my knees or giving me a less than experience, when I realized it was connected to a faulty program, kind of like a computer that needs a defrag. And I went in and did the defrag and then loosened up then got the operating system working. Everything started coming online with my true desires, with Source granting me more of who I was being, which was space and wholeness and well-being and inspiration and positivity. And there's another thing about the whole law of attraction thing in any area of our life that I've discovered is that when we're trying to force something to happen the way we think it should from our overactive mind, we are cutting out so much of the possibility of the field, the source that matches our highest desires. When we get our being calm and peaceful and spacious, we actually get opportunity and trajectories that come into our life that far exceed anything that we could have come up with. So in my life, I went from, as a single woman, I went from being in my late 40s to losing everything for the second time over through love partners, because I used to have the belief that I can make money, I can be successful, but somebody's always going to take it away from me. Somebody's always going to destroy me. And they were love partners, and that's what happened to me in my life twice. And I'd actually got to a level, but I kind of had, but anyway, since cleaning up that, and the traumas of that, of course, were horrific. And this is the great thing about quantum love, is what hurts is our deepest darkness from where we mine our greatest gold. So what happens with that is the trauma from that, of course, is horrific. And my heart goes out to anybody who is still going through that. But by going inwards in a quantum way and loading up those traumas from within and getting them out of my cellular and energetic vibrational field, and being able to bring Source in, which is the correct download, which is that space, creation, light, well-being, expansion. That's the grace from the karma. And just to fill with that and come even in that place of life is shattered, I'm without, I don't even know how I'm going to cope. I've got piles of debt. I'm so sick, I can't even work. I don't even know. Just by doing that as an absolute practice, dedication, devotion to myself, understanding quantum law, and by coming online, I have rebuilt tenfold in excess of anything I ever had capacity to do in the past. And every area of my life has absolutely and utterly expanded into, and it doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. And I don't need any of it. I'm just being an expanded being now. But it doesn't mean I don't get triggered and I don't have challenges. Absolutely, I do. But I have the way to deal with it. Load it up, let it go, bring in the light. Stop trying to look out there to fix it. Fix it on the inside, and then I know what to do out there. Often it shifts. Absolutely, it's times, sometimes I have to have the difficult conversations. I have to confront. I have to lead from the front. I have to have the courage. But when I'm filled with light without fear, because the trauma's gone, it's so much easier. And you know what to do. You become wise. You become source-filled. You have guidance. That divine mind has every information that we need in it. But you know what, beautiful people, when you're clogged up with trauma, there's no room for it to enter. And when we're clogged up with trauma, the brain follows the body. Our brain can only think in the bandwidth of our beingness. And if our beingness is trauma ridden, well, then our brain is always going to default back to the thoughts, the stinking thinking that match the trauma. Now, let's go back to the start of this conversation, because I've unpacked a lot there for you about quantum law. But to simplify it, when we look at unconditional love, we're doing life from the outside in. And really what we're saying is, if I just love you enough and if I give you enough, well, then you're going to treat me the way I treat you. And it's not the truth. People don't treat us from what we're saying and doing. People treat us in accordance to who we're being. Unconditional love is for herself. So for me, what is my unconditional love to me? My unconditional love to me is that if I'm triggered and I'm traumatized, that I do the work to let it go and bring in the light, to heal myself. And I know that that's the most loving thing that I can not only do for me, but the entire field. Because if I honor my soul, then I honor the field in honorable ways. If I don't honor my soul, I'm broken, I'm empty, I'm needy, I'm traumatized. And then I take that out into the field and I try to create strawberry jam out of shit. Clearly, when we understand quantum law, everything that we do when we're triggered or empty and traumatized will only grant us more of that. Because Source, the higher mind consciousness creation says, whoever you're being, I love you so much, I'll grant you more of that. But when we understand this, going back to what I said before, if you want to know what's going on in your inner world, look at your outer world. Then when you make the connection and you go, oh my God, not in blame or shame, but in fascination, you say, you know what? I am creator. I actually am creator. This is not in a hubris way. You know, narcissists are like the master, you know, the god queens of the universe. They're creating from a absolute egoic mind, alpha, beta, controlling, empty, needy, totally insecure way. That's why they behave the way they do. When you come back to ye are creator, okay, I'm having that in my experience because I'm understanding I'm the generative source of my own experience. I take the radical personal responsibility of saying, yeah, there are really bad people in the world. Absolutely there are. And that's their journey. But if they're in my experience, it's because I've got traumatic, unhealed beliefs inside of me. So rather than trying to force them to change so that I feel better, which backfires terribly, you know that. The more you try to control an out of control person, the more out of control you get. We come home to, if I change my inner being, I'm going to change my life beyond description. And that's the unconditional love we should be having between ourselves and that higher power. That's the unconditional love. And the unconditional love for other humans can be, of course, I love you. You know, there are people that we've lost in our life that we still love them. And they're not in our life for a reason. And they're not in our life for a reason because we're no longer allowing an abuser to abuse because of love. Okay, and people say there are too many of these people in the world. But Heather, you know, the truth is, sweetheart, you're right, there's a lot, there is. And, you know, consciousness, the way it is degenerated and it's got inverted and we've been programmed out of understanding how life really works. Yes, there are a lot of empty, sick, traumatized people, and hurt people hurt people. We either have the codependents who try to control and fix people. We're still hurting people because we're enabling them. Or you have the narcissistic type who are trying to one-up people and manipulate them that are hurting people. But we're all hurting people and we're all hurting ourselves because we're out of integrity. Let's get really real about that rather than make it a them versus us thing. If we're unconscious, we're hurting ourselves and we're hurting others. And we're also hurting our children because we're programming them to hand over power as well, because we're not leading the way. So I want to give you the radical responsibility to say that if you change your inner being, you're not only going to change your own life beyond description, you're going to be a force of change for future generations, and also everybody who comes into contact with you that you inspire, because you are leading from the inside out by example. It's really powerful. Okay. Now, of course, there are bad people, but when we think about the whole quantum inner universe, outer universe situation, what happens when you get into integrity and you get healed and you stop looking out and you stop playing victim and you start getting healed enough to lay boundaries and no longer tolerate? Because that's true love. I love myself enough that I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to roll around with you, and I'm not going to put up with this, and I'm not going to hang with you, and I know you're out of integrity, and I'm not going to. No more that when you got healthy, you wouldn't eat a fairy floss every night for dinner, would you? And if you did, it's self-abuse. There's no difference with this. So when you totally take on a quantum life from the inside out, you'll make better choices. You won't want to do that to your soul anymore. You won't sleep with people randomly because, STDs, sexually transmitted diseases, spiritually transmitted diseases. What energy are you taking on? So many things in your life will change. So bad people, I love the myth about vampires for so many reasons, and it's narcissists to a T. There's some powerful truths in the myth of vampires, and I kind of suspect whoever came up with that was actually talking about narcs. Two things stand out massively. When you shine a bright light on a vampire, they scream and dissolve and have to run back to the shadows. So if you show up in just truth and power and honesty, they run for the hills. I promise you, when you speak up, when you lay boundaries, when you just call them out, when you're not there to change their mind, because you can't, or make them heal, because you can't, you're just showing up as a bright light, off they go. Goodbye. Gone ski. Had that in my life with a situation not long ago. The other powerful truth about vampires, in the myth, they would knock on people's doors, and if people let them in, then they would, right? Sorry, it was a bit of fun. Amuse myself sometimes. But if you don't open the door, they could not touch you. How powerful. So, when we've got boundaries and we take our time with people and we don't let them in, Gonski, they're no longer in your vibrational reality. And Source says, okay, well, you've got that. You understand that. Well, I'm not going to bring you more of that because you've healed and up-leveled and you've graduated beyond that. So your life starts filling with better and better and better people, and it drops off with the bad people. Vibrationally, they just start moving out of your vibration because they're not a match for your being anymore. Does this make sense? People say yes. If this isn't, just breathe and open and feel what I'm saying in your body, because I promise you from the bottom of my cells, this is the truth. And it's actually really fast and powerful when you just go direct at the quantum level instead of trying to do it at the disconnected head level. Okay? And somebody is saying it needs courage, but it's so worth it. It does need courage. It's so true. But to give you an example, when I used to try to speak up in the past, I would get like brain fog and this white hot fuzz, and I just couldn't even think, let alone I knew I had to speak up, but it was like somebody had me by the throat. I couldn't do it. And when I went in and quantumly healed, I found these terrors. If I speak up, I'm going to be annihilated. And it was absolutely how I felt as a child, as well as past life energy memories in my energy body that had never been released or healed, that had kept coming with me the whole way through. And quantumly, I was able to go in, pick them up, release them, bring in the light, and then I could speak up. It was still scary and it still needed courage, but it was so doable. Whereas in the past, it was impossible. So it is both. It's courage and the inner work that makes it happen. So I hope that makes sense too. So somebody was saying, well, how do you heal? Well, first of all, I'm going to give you a couple of things to look at. I have coming up September the 12th, I'm doing another 10-week boot camp, which is called Thrive, THRIVE. So it's really simple to look up. It's just Melanie Tonia Evans, my name, /Thrive, THRIVE. So what that is, it's in person with yours truly. We only have a select amount of people that do it. It's really affordable. I mean, there's lots of courses and classes out there that are 10x, but we 10x our value and we keep it at a price that people who've been narcissistically abused can do. Check it out, but it's all about quantum expansion. It's everything we're talking about plus so much more. So check it out. All right. And also too, I always recommend to you beautiful people, the Narcissistic Abuse Recovery Program, especially those of you who've been in my community for a long time. I'm just going to tell you, I don't want you here in my community for a long time. I want you off into the sunset, having an amazing life where you never have to listen to this information again. I want you up level, graduated beyond this. I have to hang here because it's what I do for a job, right? But you guys don't. Information is not transformation. And that's a trap. You can go, I'm going to watch YouTube videos or lives. I'm going to, read. I'm going to follow these people all the time. But if you have not got the poop out of your ice cream cone, well, you're completely putting ice cream on top of it that keeps melting off all the time. You've got to get the poop out. How you get the poop out is the Narcissistic Abuse Recovery Program. It's NARP. So it's just Melanie Tonia Evans /N for Nelly ARP. Especially, look, newbies, we do get a lot of newbies. They hear this stuff, their cells light up and they go, okay, bang, fully money back guaranteed. It's like 3 counseling sessions. You get coaching and support with us for life 24/7, 365, as well as your program. It's incredible value. And you have a full money back guarantee. If it doesn't work for you, you never get that in contemporary therapy. Check it out. Melanie Tony Evans /NARP. Okay, so I'm just having a look at a couple of your comments. Sharik Gulawala, what do you say to people who are stuck thinking they're not enough and just stuck with self-help stuff? You have to get the trauma out. You have to use something quantum that can work on your inner being to get the trauma out. Then it will completely change. Okay. Thank you so much, Melanie. Yes, it's time for me to take another deep dive into NARP. Yep. This time I'm going to make it work and I'll get all the poop out. Yes, Leslie. I love that. That's fantastic. I'm glad I've inspired you. Okay. What's the difference? And we've got beautiful Eva in there answering some questions. How do you start healing, Nicole? I just described that. Yeah, Nicole, it sounds like you're ready. That's why you're asking. I love it when people say, right, how do I heal? Because I know you're ready. You've had enough of the pain and you're ready. Okay. All right. I think we're good, everybody. All right. Well, thank you for hanging out with me tonight, wherever you are in the world. I hope you're having a beautiful, beautiful day. And please know how much I love you. And more than that, please know how much Source adores you. You just got to change your being, and your life will take off in ways that you can't even fathom yet. And it's so fast when you start doing it. All right, everybody. So much love. Love you all. Okay, we'll talk again soon. Thanks for hanging out.